I was hacked by someone in another country, and it wasn't pretty. It all started with a normal day like any other. I was checking my emails, scrolling through social media, when I noticed something strange. My accounts were acting weird. Messages I hadn't sent were showing up, and friends were asking if I'd really sent some odd links. At first, I thought it was just a glitch, but soon I realized something far worse was happening. I was being hacked. At first, the signs were subtle. My password stopped working, and I couldn't log into some of my accounts. Then, personal information started disappearing or getting changed. It was terrifying to see my digital world unravel before my eyes. The hacker wasn't just playing around, they were taking over everything, from my email to my banking app. I tried to stay calm, but panic quickly set in. I had no idea who was behind this or why they targeted me. I'm just an ordinary person with no enemies or big secrets. Why me? As I struggled to regain control, I discovered the hacker was from another country, someone I had never met and probably never would. The consequences hit me hard. My bank account was drained, private conversations were leaked, and I even received threats. I felt completely exposed and vulnerable. It was like a stranger had invaded my life, watching every move and manipulating my online identity. I couldn't trust my devices or even the internet anymore. Trying to fix the mess wasn't easy. I spent hours on the phone with customer support, changing passwords repeatedly, and setting up extra security measures. But every time I thought I had stopped the hacker, they found another way in. It felt like a never-ending battle with an invisible enemy. One night, the hacker sent a message directly to me, a chilling reminder that they were always watching. They knew details about my life that I never shared online. It wasn't just random hacking anymore, it was personal. That's when I realized how dangerous this situation had become. I had to act fast. I started researching everything I could about cybersecurity and hacks from foreign attackers. I wanted to understand how these hackers operated and what I could do to protect myself. The more I learned, the more I realized how common this problem was and how many people were suffering in silence. My journey into the dark side of the internet had just begun, and I knew it was going to be a long, difficult road. But I also knew I wasn't going to let this hacker win. This story is about how I faced the nightmare of being hacked by someone halfway across the world, and how I fought to take back control of my life. After realizing my bank account had been compromised, I felt like I was falling deeper into a trap I couldn't escape. Changing passwords and enabling extra security measures felt like putting band-aids on a sinking ship. But what scared me the most was discovering the hacker hadn't just stopped at my bank, they had gained access to my phone as well. One evening, while scrolling through my messages, I noticed strange texts from unknown numbers. They were full of random letters and numbers, sometimes in foreign languages. I couldn't make sense of them, but they kept coming, sometimes dozens in a row. Then came the notifications telling me my location was being tracked. My heart dropped. How did they get access to my GPS? I started feeling like I was being watched every moment. The invasion didn't stop there. One day, I received a message containing photos of my family. They were pictures I'd never shared online. The message said, "Cooperate, or everyone sees this." I felt completely helpless and terrified. How had they gotten these pictures? What else did they have? I contacted the police and reported everything. But dealing with cybercrime, especially when the hacker is overseas, was frustratingly slow. The officers were sympathetic, but told me such cases often take months or years to resolve, if at all. Meanwhile, the hacker kept taunting me with threats and messages pretending to be me. Friends started to question me when they received strange emails or texts from my accounts. Some even stopped talking to me, believing I was behind spam or scams. I became paranoid. Every sound or vibration from my phone made me jump. I started avoiding social media and stopped sharing anything personal online. I felt like a prisoner in my own digital world, afraid that at any moment, my life could be turned upside down again. Despite all this, I refused to give up. I knew I had to fight back and take control of my digital life before the hacker destroyed everything I'd built. I began researching cybersecurity, trying to learn how to protect myself better. It was overwhelming at first, but I had no choice. This wasn't just about money anymore. It was about my privacy, my reputation, and my peace of mind. The battle was far from over, and I was just getting started. Determined to regain control, I started taking serious steps to protect myself. First, I reached out to a professional cybersecurity expert. They explained how hackers operate and gave me a checklist. Secure all accounts with two-factor authentication, scan devices for malware, update software regularly, and monitor unusual activity closely. It felt like learning a new language, but I was desperate. I spent hours changing passwords, installing security apps, and setting up alerts on every account I owned. I even bought a new phone and wiped my old devices clean, hoping to cut off the hackers' access. Every night, I double-checked my bank statements and email activity. I started using encrypted messaging apps and avoided public Wi-Fi as much as possible. The paranoia was still there, but at least I was fighting back. The hacker didn't take this lightly. Soon, the messages got nastier, filled with threats about what they could do if I didn't play nice. They claimed they could ruin my career, leak personal photos, and even hurt my family. I was terrified. I knew I couldn't ignore the danger, but I also knew that panicking would only give them power. One night, I received a message that chilled me to the bone. It said, "You're not safe anywhere." I felt trapped, like there was no escape from their reach. I wanted to give up, to just shut off all my devices and disappear. But then I thought about my family and friends, how much they depended on me and how much I wanted to protect them from ever feeling like this. With the experts' help, I started working with law enforcement again, providing them with logs, screenshots, and evidence of the hackers' threats and actions. It was slow progress, but I could see that things were moving forward. I also connected with online communities of people who had been hacked or targeted. Their stories helped me realize I wasn't alone, and they gave me practical tips to stay safe. The experience changed me. I became much more cautious about what I shared online and who I trusted. I learned how vulnerable we all are in this digital age, but I also discovered strength I didn't know I had. The strength to face fear and uncertainty head on. Though the hackers still lurk somewhere out there, I refuse to let them win. I continue to fight for my privacy in my life, and every day I get a little stronger. This nightmare has become a lesson, and I hope sharing my story will help others protect themselves before it's too late. Despite all the precautions, the hackers' attacks didn't completely stop. They found new ways to sneak in, creating fake accounts that pretended to be me or my friends. They sent phishing emails to my contacts, trying to spread their influence. I started getting suspicious messages from people I barely knew, and even some close friends seemed unsure if they were really talking to me. It was exhausting and heartbreaking. One of the hardest parts was dealing with the emotional toll. I felt isolated, like I couldn't trust anyone. Even though my family and friends tried to support me, they couldn't fully understand what I was going through. I had to keep explaining myself repeatedly, proving I wasn't the one sending those fake messages. The stress affected my work and sleep, and I struggled to stay positive. During this time, I also realized how much personal information we share online without thinking twice. The hacker had pieced together so many details about my life from social media, public records, and careless conversations. It was like a puzzle that allowed them to manipulate and threaten me effectively. I deleted or privatized many accounts, and I started being very selective about what I shared. The cybersecurity expert encouraged me to build a digital fortress, but warned that perfection is impossible. Hackers are always evolving, and the internet is a dangerous place. They helped me set up alerts for any unusual activity on my accounts and showed me how to identify phishing attempts quickly. I also learned to use password managers to create strong, unique passwords for every site, something I had ignored before. One breakthrough came when law enforcement managed to trace some of the hackers' activity to a foreign country. They collaborated with international agencies to investigate further. It was a complicated process, and I had to provide lots of information and cooperate fully. I hoped this meant the hackers' days were numbered, but I also knew it could take a long time before any real justice was served. While waiting for answers, I focused on rebuilding my life. I started therapy to handle the anxiety and fear that had taken hold. I reconnected with friends I trusted and joined online support groups for victims of cybercrime. Sharing my story helped me feel less alone and gave me a sense of control over my situation. Even though the hacker had invaded my privacy and shaken my sense of safety, I refused to be defined by this experience. I became an advocate for digital security, spreading awareness about how to protect personal information. It was a painful journey, but it made me stronger and more resilient. I learned that even in the darkest moments, there's hope, and that's what kept me going. As time went on, I realized that while the hacker had caused a lot of damage, they couldn't control my life forever. I made a conscious decision not to let fear rule me. Every day, I took small steps to regain my confidence and rebuild my digital life. It wasn't easy, but it was necessary. I updated all my devices regularly, backed up important data securely, and kept educating myself on cybersecurity best practices. One of the most important lessons I learned was to always be cautious but not paranoid. Technology can be a powerful tool for connection and growth, but it demands respect and vigilance. I shared my story openly to warn others, hoping that people would take their online safety seriously before facing the nightmare I went through. Eventually, the authorities made progress in their investigation. The hacker's identity was uncovered, and legal actions were taken. Though it didn't erase the trauma or stress, it brought some closure. Knowing that the person responsible faced consequences gave me a sense of justice. Looking back, I'm grateful for the support of my friends, family, and the professionals who helped me navigate the chaos. Their kindness reminded me that even when things seem darkest, there are people willing to stand by your side. The experience also taught me the importance of community, both online and offline. Today, I'm more careful, but also more empowered. I've turned my experience into a mission to educate others about digital safety. From hosting workshops to writing guides, I want to make sure no one feels as helpless as I did. The internet is a vast world, full of possibilities and risks, and knowing how to protect yourself is key. If there's one message I want to leave, it's this. No matter what happens, don't give up. Cyber attacks can happen to anyone, but they don't have to define you. Seek help, stay informed, and keep fighting. Your digital life is precious, and protecting it is worth every effort. The day I was hacked felt like losing control, but it ended up teaching me how to take control back. It was a difficult journey, but it made me stronger and more aware. Now, I live with a new appreciation for security and privacy, and I'm ready to face whatever the digital world throws at me next.